Have you guys, either one of y'all, played the game or watched the series called The Last of Us?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Both.
okay. So you guys know what this topic's going to be about, right? If you've watched...
Zombies?
It's about the zombie fungus. You know,
Okay.
you remember, I don't know if you like really kind of deep dive into like these episodes, but in that very first episode, I think it was the very first scene, there was a scientist talking about, you know, what are the most dangerous things out there. And he was talking about how this fungus can...
It's like mutating really quickly or like...
Right,
just
there's a fungus out there that can basically turn animals into zombies.
Oh.
And so that is
They can't die or they just become like rabid, like rabies.
it basically takes over their nervous system. And so there is a true fungus out there. It's called Cordyceps, and that's the genus of it. There's a lot of different subspecies, and it's called the ant zombie fungus. And so there's a picture there, and I'm gonna give credit to Jim McCormack. He is a photographer in Ohio.
Is that an ant?
And that's a grasshopper. We're gonna look at the pictures in a minute. He is a great photographer out in Ohio. He has a very awesome blog, which I encourage people to check out at jimmccormack.com. And I want to thank him for having these pictures up and give him credit for them, because I use some of his pictures. So Cordyceps, this is a genus of fungus. It is one that gets release of spores out into the environment, and these spores drift down, and when they get on insects, those spores can get in through their spiracles. So spiracles are the holes in the side of an insect's skin which allow them to breathe. They don't have necessarily lungs like we have. They breathe through their skin, and that's kind of a weak spot for
Learned something new. Didn't know.
spiracles. The only reason I know about spiracles is because I have that spider collection, and I know that spiders have spiracles, and yeah, they breathe from the side of their body. Yeah, interesting, right? So once this fungus, these spores get into the insect, they start to replicate.
Okay.
And what's crazy is this fungus will start to take nutrients away from the host. It'll start to eat the insects from the inside out. But for some reason, it knows what organs it can and can't consume, and it will consume the insect in a manner that it can still move and live, basically. So it's basically the fungus is eating the insect alive, but purposefully keeping it alive. And this is the crazy part. So as the fungus starts to spread out inside the body, so it's starting to fill it up, almost like, you know, like a pregnancy in a woman. It then gets into its nervous system, and it's not completely understood how the fungus does this. It's thought that it either mechanically takes over the muscles or perhaps takes over the brain itself or sends chemicals. And this is where it gets really weird, because the fungus will actually convince the insect to do things that it normally wouldn't do, right?
Yeah.
So as the fungus is about to make its big, escape out of the insect, it wants it to get somewhere very high. So what it does is it forces the insect to, like
climb.
first of all, do what it normally does, like forage for food or whatever. It forces it to climb really, really high, and then it'll latch on to like a leaf or a branch or whatever, and that's when things get really weird. It then kills it so that it's stuck in place, and then the tentacles start to come out through the skin of the insect, which eventually will release spores, and then the whole process will repeat. And so I want to show some pictures. Can you go to that next picture? This is a leaf roller cricket. This is one of the insects. This is also a courtesy of Jim McCormack. Picture of that cricket. All right, now go to the next picture. That is after the fungus has killed the insect and it's kind of latched in place. And those things coming out are the spores, which will then, or the tentacles, which will release the spores. All right, go to the next one there. Check that one. Crazy, right? I mean, it looks nightmarish, doesn't it? It reminds you of those scenes from the zombie. I think there's a couple more. Yeah, that's a moth that it's infected, and so at that
And
point,
this does not affect humans, only.
we're going to talk about that.
Great.
Yeah. And then lastly, I think that's an ant. It's hard to tell because they mutate, and so it's kind of hard to tell what they are. But pretty wild stuff to see that. So you bring up a great question: is can these zombie funguses infect humans? And as of right now, the answer is no.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the big thing about the fungus that prevents it from getting into humans is that we are much hotter than an insect. Insect's body temperature is cooler. And because our body temperature is warmer, the fungus breaks down and it can't survive.
Right.
Now, what's really kind of crazy when you think about that is what's happening to the Earth.
It's getting hotter.
Earth's getting hotter. So what happens to animals when their environment changes? They adapt.
Yeah.
And so what the concern is that as the world gets hotter, will these funguses mutate to potentially be able to survive?
Like attach onto animals next.
Attach onto animals next. You know, it's crazy to think about it. And of course, you know, humans or even, you know, non-human animals do have a little bit more aggressive immune systems than insects, but it's pretty wild to think about that it could potentially happen based on, you know, if the world keeps heating up. You know, and there are funguses already that are mind altering, right?
Yeah.
Magic mushrooms, psilocybin. Yeah. I mean, you know, when you think of these zombie movies, like, I mean, someone who is like out of their mind on psilocybin would potentially act like the zombies in the movie.
Yeah.
They're just like not human anymore.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you think about that is if you had a fungus inside of you that was releasing chemicals like that into your brain, I mean, you could suddenly not act human.
Yeah, like because it's pretty much, they just become the fungus itself, I guess. And
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
your main priority is just to survive and spread.
Yeah, isn't it? It's wild to think about it.
Gross.
I will say that fungal infections in humans, like, so there are certain fungus that can survive in humans. It's not super common, but we do see it in the hospital. Fungal infections are some of the absolute worst infections. It's hard to kill the fungus in the body once it really takes root. And so, you know, when people get like fungal pneumonias or fungal sepsis, I mean, they're at dire risk of death. I mean, because even the drugs you have to give they're so toxic, they're like harmful. Things like amphotericin, which have historically been used to kill some of the worst funguses. So yeah, it's really interesting to kind of think about these zombie funguses, and you know, as of right now, they can't really affect, you know, animals or humans. But you know, could you potentially see a future where a fungus causes a pandemic like COVID? I mean, it's possible. You know, it's right now, no, but I mean, that's how, you know, adaptation, evolutionary things work in the animal world. Like, things change, and then suddenly the balance of power.
I mean, because COVID existed a long time ago. It's just that variant got out of control.
Right. It's crazy stuff. What do you think, Travis? You're quiet in there. Zombie fungus? Are you nervous or what?
So I've heard of the zombie fungus that I guess infected everybody on Last of Us.
Yeah.
And when I first heard about it, I was
Cordyceps.
nervous. I was nervous. But hearing that it can't like infect humans, I guess that kind of calms me. It soothes me a little bit.
Yeah.
He's not going to have any nightmares tonight.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I don't want that fungus like coming out of my mouth and stuff.
Thanks.
Well, and one thing about those, you know, because in that series, The Last of Us, the fungus like all talks to each other and it comes out. That's all Hollywood. That's not real.
I know
stuff.
trees are supposed to talk to each other.
Do they?
Yeah.
Kind of like that happening.
Well, you know, you know what? I want to say that there is some like crazy fungus that grows like in the rainforest or something that's really big, and that does connect. But this one does. The zombie fungus does not.
Oh, okay.
But I think there are funguses that are really big that all connect.
Yeah, I know trees talk to each other.
What do they say?
They like their roots. It's like a
Their roots.
They talk to each other.
Right, but they
and
communicate.
their root.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I learned that. I literally think it was on Magic School Bus.
Magic School.
I like it.
I was watching it with
have a
Avery. It was some of the new episodes. I'm not even joking.
We may have to have a segment on what trees talk about.
And I love Magic School Bus, so that's whatever.
Hey, I'm on board. All right, zombie fungus. Let us know what you think. Pretty crazy stuff. Right now, I think we're safe from a fungal zombie apocalypse, but I don't know, if the world keeps getting warmer, things could happen. It could get crazy.